I bet you didn't know that death by elephant used to be a pretty popular form of execution, or that when basketball was invented, you weren't actually allowed to dribble the ball. Yeah, it may be hard to believe, but it's true. Strap in because here are 20 random facts that might not seem it, but are 100% true. There's a giant Amazonian centipede that hunts bats. It's the true stuff of nightmares. This centipede, formerly known as Scolopendra gigantea, grows up to 30 centimeters in length, hangs from the walls and ceilings of caves, lunges at, and literally snatches bats right out of the air. And it gets better. If you thought nothing could be scarier than a giant bat-eating Amazonian centipede, you'd be wrong. Try a giant bat-eating Amazonian centipede with fangs that injects venom that not only paralyzes but breaks down its victim's tissue. The next time you're looking for an answer to something, try deliberately posting the incorrect answer online. Any bet that someone will chime in with the information you're after. Cunningham's law states that the best way to get the right answer is not to ask a question, but to post the wrong answer. It's a reverse psychology tactic based on human nature, the idea being that people are more likely to correct someone's mistake than to answer their question. When basketball was invented back in 1891, dribbling the ball up the court as we know it today didn't exist. You couldn't even run with the ball in hand. The rules stated that players could only bounce past the ball up the court. Part of the reason is because back in the day, basketballs were more like soccer balls. You couldn't really dribble them properly even if you wanted to, but players started to find loopholes, bouncing the ball and retrieving it themselves, and eventually in 1909, the rules changed, allowing players to continuously dribble the ball without passing. Back in ancient Greece, Olympic athletes competed completely nude for a couple of reasons. The first being to honor the gods by showcasing the pure human form. The other being tied to the belief that sweating helped rid the body of toxins, and for whatever reason, nudity helped in this process. This is even traced back through the origins of the word gymnastics, originating from the ancient Greek word gymnasian, which literally means to train naked. So be thankful you're not an ancient Greek Olympian long jumper, or you'd be getting sand in places it probably doesn't belong. In the 1800s, people were so terrified of being buried alive that they invented safety coffins. The fear is called taphophobia, and these coffins were fitted with built-in air tubes with a string tied to the deceased person's finger, connected to a bell above the ground. Many believe this is where the term "saved by the bell" came from, but that's not quite right. It instead comes from boxing, where a boxer facing defeat is saved by the bell that signals the end of the round. Another interesting bell-related fact is that the famous London landmark that everyone knows as Big Ben isn't actually called Big Ben. It was originally just called Clock Tower, but then it was renamed in 2012 to Elizabeth Tower. So what is Big Ben? Well, it's actually the name of the giant 13.5-ton bell that sits inside the tower, not the structure itself. In ancient Asia, death by elephant was a popular and widely used form of execution. The practice was known as elephant crushing. Depending on the severity of the crime and the message they wanted to send, the elephants were trained to either draw out the execution by crushing limbs one by one, or instead finishing the victim off quickly. And if a 4-ton elephant bearing down on you wasn't enough, I guess they thought, stuff it. Why not attach sharp metal blades to their tusks so they could both crush and dismember? Yeah, because that's a smart idea. In the Victorian era, they really loved mustaches, to the point where they'd go to extreme lengths to protect them. British potter Harvey Adams decided to capitalise on this demand, and the Mustache cup was born. It looked like your everyday teacup with one distinct feature. It came with a built-in ceramic guard moulded into the cup to make sure those delicately waxed mustaches stayed dry. In the town of Longyearbyen, Norway, you're not allowed to die. Well, technically it's just illegal to be buried there. With an average temperature of -6 degrees, the ground is permanently frozen year-round, the permafrost preventing buried bodies from decomposing. This presented a few concerns, one of the more significant being the discovery of bodies buried during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, still perfectly preserved. Scientists that exhumed the bodies found traces of the virus still intact and potentially still dangerous. So if a person is terminally ill or elderly, they're flown to the mainland to see out their days, and the town remains one of the only places on Earth that has a policy against dying. A single lightning bolt can release up to 1 billion joules of energy and can reach up to 30,000 degrees Celsius. This is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. For context, this is enough energy to toast 20,000 slices of bread, melt 3 tons of ice instantly, or charge around 21,000 smartphones to full. So the question you may be asking is, how can a person possibly be struck by lightning and survive? Well, only a fraction of those 1 billion joules actually enters the body. Most of it passes over the skin's surface in what experts call a flashover. The flashover effect is enhanced when the skin is wet or sweaty, conducting the energy around the body, not through it. There's an experimental medical technique where people can survive by breathing liquid instead of air. Liquid ventilation uses perfluorocarbons, or PFCs, dense clear synthetic fluids which contain huge amounts of oxygen. While the practice isn't all that common, mainly due to the challenges with having to eventually remove the liquid from the lungs, these chemically stable, non-toxic liquids play an important role in treating lung trauma and acute respiratory distress. So let's address one of life's big questions. Is a hot dog a sandwich? The generally accepted definition of a sandwich is 2 or more slices of bread with some filling. So sure, technically it fits the definition. But in 2015, the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, the body representing the US hot dog and sausage industry, officially declared that a hot dog is not a sandwich. The council argued that the unique culinary and cultural identity sets it apart, and the hot dog sits in a distinct food category all on its own. While I tend to agree, I'm not sure how much faith we should place in an organisation that also released an official hot dog etiquette guide stating you shouldn't put ketchup on a hot dog if you're over 18. You can't take more than 5 bites to finish a hot dog, and condiments have to always go on top of the dog, not under. Defining a hot dog is one thing, but telling people how to eat it, now that's a step too far. Birds have stereosonic hearing, where they can dissect any sound. Their asymmetrically placed ears help them create a sort of 3D audio map by analysing the pitch, loudness, duration, and direction. What it all means is that they can detect where a sound originates with pinpoint accuracy. And the bird that does this the most effectively is the owl. Even in complete darkness, they can detect a mouse moving beneath the leaves or snow from over 30 meters away. While we're on the topic of mice, it's probably worth mentioning that despite popular belief, they're not actually all that fond of cheese. A 2006 study by a university in Manchester found that when given the option of cheese, grapes, or peanuts, the mice overwhelmingly opted for the latter. The whole mice and cheese thing is really just a pop culture invention, so Tom and Jerry and Speedy Gonzales have been lying to us. Mice actually prefer sweet, not savory. There's an extremely rare genetic disorder called Urbach-Wheeler disease. Sorry, I realize I completely butchered that, but anyway, the disease can remove a person's ability to feel fear. With fewer than 300 known cases worldwide, the condition can lead to damage of the amygdala, where the brain processes fear. Those affected are unable to feel fear despite being subject to the most dangerous situations. A famous case was a woman known only as SM. Neuroscientists found she registered no fear response to snakes, haunted houses, or even being held at knife point. SM's case helped confirm that fear is a hardwired biological response, not just a learned behavior. Sasami Bay in Japan holds the Guinness World Record for the world's deepest underwater postbox. You can find it 10 meters below the surface, and yes, it's still fully operational. Divers write with oil-based pens on waterproof postcards made from synthetic material and post them underwater. These postcards are collected daily, dried and processed, and receive their very own unique marine-themed stamp. Despite initially starting out as a quirky tourist attraction, it's since handled more than 38,000 pieces of mail. Everyone goes on about how the magic eraser can clean anything, and it's pretty accurate. But what's interesting is that this magical cleaning sponge doesn't contain any chemical agents or solvents at all. It's simply a melamine foam block that works like a fine sandpaper, scraping the particles off surfaces, not dissolving them. So I guess there's really no magic to it. You're not cleaning your house, you're resurfacing. One of Las Vegas's most unique attractions is the Titanic exhibit at the Luxor Hotel. It features a 15-ton, 26-foot section of the Titanic's hull nicknamed the Big Piece. Visitors experience full-scale recreations of the first-class hallway, grand staircase, and third-class cabins. Upon entry, they receive a replica boarding pass with the name of an actual passenger. And at the end of the exhibit, they find out whether their passenger survived or perished. Garrett Morgan, inventor and entrepreneur, designed the modern-day traffic light. But what some may be surprised to know is that Morgan was completely colorblind. His trouble distinguishing between red and green led to him designing the three-position stop-go and warning system we know today as red, yellow, and green. This was revolutionary at the time because most earlier systems used only stop and go. The warning one didn't even exist. The abrupt transition between start and stop meant accidents happened all the time. There's a fruit that tastes just like chocolate pudding. The black sapote, aptly named the chocolate pudding fruit, looks and tastes just like chocolate mousse. When it's ripe, its flesh turns dark brown, soft, and creamy with a smooth custard-like consistency. But surprisingly, it's not related to the cacao tree and contains no actual chocolate or caffeine. Well, those were some facts. I wonder if the person who can't feel fear would be scared of a giant Amazonian centipede. I guess not. But giant centipedes aside, why not take a few more minutes checking out my other videos? They're filled with crazy random facts that, believe it or not, are 100% true. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next time.